Any sane person would tell you that sending a car hurtling down a narrow road within mere inches of trees and rocks at over 70 miles an hour is a pretty stupid idea. But that's just rally. With drivers willing to risk it all, it should come as no surprise that their teams are willing to push the boundaries of the rulebook just as far. Whether you call it cheating or call it innovation, here's a look at 3 of the best cases of rule bending in the World Rally Championship. When it came to Group B rally, the Lancia 037 was an absolute beast. It had a screaming supercharged engine putting out 325 horsepower, tucked underneath a lightweight composite body. This was enough to put it on pace with supercars of its time. But it had one major weakness: rear-wheel drive. With the 1983 WRC season kicking off at the typically snow and ice-covered Rally Monte Carlo, Lancia knew that they were in trouble. Facing off against the legendary all-wheel drive Audi Quattro, Lancia knew the 037 would be no match if they encountered any slippery conditions. They could have just accepted their fate and tried for a third-place finish, but that's not the kind of guy Cesare Fiorio was.
If you want to compete in motorsport, you must know the rules you have to face, the gray zones of the rules, and it's always a big fight, but you must try to be a bit clever.
The Lancia team principal allegedly ordered road salt from Italy and spread it from the team truck along the more difficult stages to melt any snow or ice. He even coerced the French authorities into helping him salt the roads by arguing that he was looking out for the safety of spectators. Lancia did this in secret and even started out their rally on snow tires to blend in with the rest of the field. To everyone's confusion, just 4 kilometers into the rally, Lancia stopped to change tires to full slicks. They also stopped several more times throughout the rally mid-stage to alternate between slicks and studded tires, depending on the conditions. The stops added about a minute each to their time, so were they worth it? You bet they were. With much of the snow and ice melted and their cars always on the proper tires for the road surface, Lancia flew through the rally to a 1-2 victory. First place Lancia driver Walter Röhrl even finished over 11 minutes ahead of the third place Audi Quattro. Not bad for a rear-wheel drive car at Rally Monte Carlo. The next innovation on this list takes us back to 2003, with Ford's introduction of their Focus RS WRC 03 rally car. Compared with its predecessors, the car was vastly redesigned and featured notably larger front and rear bumpers. Initial speculation was that this was done for aero reasons, but it turns out Ford was hiding something really interesting under the rear bumper. At the time, WRC cars were required to run a 34mm air restrictor, which ultimately limited how much power their engines could produce. But Ford found a clever way to flow more air into their engine, making use of the car's oversized bumper. Underneath was a 45-liter titanium tank, which was connected to the engine's intake manifold by almost 4 meters of titanium pipe. Before the pipe from the tank met up with the manifold, there was an electronically controlled butterfly valve, which Ford cleverly referred to as the idle control valve. More on this weird tank setup in a little bit. The car was also turbocharged and fitted with an anti-lag system, as were most rally cars of the time. So let's take just a moment to go over how that works. Anti-lag works by diverting intake air into the exhaust manifold and slowing down the firing of the fuel injectors and spark plugs such that they fire when the exhaust valves are open. This all happens when the driver lets up on the throttle. The result is that an air-fuel mixture is ignited in the exhaust manifold, which creates a pressure wave and keeps the turbo spinning rapidly while the driver is out of the gas. Sure, it's not good for the turbo, but it nearly eliminates any lag in power delivery that a turbo car would otherwise have. Ford's anti-lag system was different though. Rather than only diverting air into the exhaust manifold, they also sent some of it back through the titanium pipe and into their bumper tank. Once the tank was pressurized, the butterfly valve would close, and the ECU would wait to open it up again until the driver demanded full throttle. Then, all of the stored pressurized air would force its way from the tank into the intake and help the engine make more power than was originally thought possible with the restrictor. Here's where a lot of stories get it wrong though. Despite being a really innovative idea, the power increase was only estimated at somewhere in the neighborhood of 5%, and probably didn't contribute as much to the Ford speed as a lot of people think. But you have to hand it to them. You can't even really call it a cheat, since it wasn't against any WRC rules at the time, and it was clever enough that the FIA banned the system after 3 rallies. Even if you're not into rally, you've probably heard of the final cheat on this list, which also has to do with turbocharging. The 1995 Toyota Celica Turbo Cheat is legendary in the world of motorsports, but you may not be familiar with how it actually worked, so let's focus on that. The 34mm air restrictor mentioned earlier was also a thing back in 1995, and Toyota wasn't happy about it. So they figured out a way to bypass the restrictor without visibly tipping off any WRC scrutineers.
The Toyotas look very powerful today. Where's the extra power from?
I don't know, it's from here, maybe.
It all came down to these things. Simple spring washers that you can buy at your local hardware store. Toyota mounted a set of these underneath the restrictor, so they weren't detectable during technical inspection. The magic happened when the intake tube was connected up to the turbo. The tube was fitted with a metal cuff, which clamped down against the spring washers when the hose clamps were tightened. This caused the spring washers to force the restrictor forwards, leaving a 5mm gap between the turbo inlet and the restrictor. Now air was able to flow both through and around the restrictor, which reportedly allowed almost 25% more air into the turbo. This bumped Toyota's power output from 300 to 350 horsepower, which is quite a noticeable gain, especially when you consider how simple the modification was. Unfortunately for Toyota, the FIA eventually caught wind of the cheat, and they were banned from the WRC for the rest of the season, in addition to the following 1996 season. Even though the FIA was upset with Toyota, President Max Mosley couldn't help but compliment the cheat, calling it the most ingenious thing he had seen in 30 years of motorsport. So there you have it, 3 fascinating rally innovations that span the course of 3 separate decades. Let me know in the comments which one was your favorite, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another video like this one. In the meantime, here's a couple more videos you might enjoy. Thanks for watching The Motorsport Story.